Hello, welcome to the Elevate Dataviz show, episode number last.
Oh, that's a sad way to say it.
The last one, yes, sad, but we are very happy. We, the podcast we created so that we could explore current topics in Dataviz, share creative inspiration. We have done that over the past 30 some episodes, and we have made the difficult decision to close down the Elevate Dataviz Learning Communities, but we wanted to also come on here as one last celebration of the amazing things we've done over the past 4 years. So we're going to talk about what we learned, what surprised us, and lots more. I'm Ali Torben. We also have Gabrielle Marit, Will Chase, and Duncan Gear. All right. So I was thinking we could start by talking a little bit about, maybe we could go back to, I can't believe it's been 4 years, but it was like September 2021, we decided to create Elevate. And well, actually, even before that, right? It was earlier in the year because we started with the beta program actually in September, and we invited a handful of people, and then we launched to the public January 2022. So, it's been a really long time.
Are you sure it wasn't like last year?
I know, it feels like that. I guess that's what happened. COVID warped all of our senses of time, but it has been such a long time, hasn't it?
Yeah,
It's kind of
amazing.
wild. But I thought we could go back and talk a little bit about what we were thinking when we first created it, and talk about, kind of compare to how it came to fruition, and if it matched, didn't match. Duncan, what do you think? How are you feeling September 2021? What this was going to be?
I was nervous, I think, just before we hit open.
Mm-hmm.
I think that, so some context for people who aren't aware is that for about a year and a half before that, we, the four of us and a few other people, had been meeting online regularly to just talk about being Dataviz freelancers in the strange place that we were all in at that time. We were all kind of like at a similar-ish place in our career, which is not to say like on top of our game. We were very much kind of like trying to climb the greasy pole and figure it out, and all the other metaphors.
Yes.
And we just kind of got together a little Slack instance of people that were kind of around the same part of their careers, and just to sort of compare notes and figure out what we were doing and things. And it was incredibly valuable. Like, I'm speaking for myself here, but I think you all have all said in the past how like really, really valuable that was
100%.
To us all at that time. And we thought, like, we kept saying like, oh, maybe we should invite this person, and maybe we should invite this person, and maybe we should invite this person. And at a certain point we realized, like, if we were going to invite all these people, we wouldn't be able to schedule all the calls. And so we were like, we want to scale this little community that we created of people who were sharing notes, things like that, and be able to share our experiences as well. And we thought that maybe a way to do it might be to create some kind of self-sustaining membership program where people could level up their Dataviz skills in a supportive community, which is what we'd just been doing. So it was really about sharing what we had seen was valuable for us.
Yeah, and it ended up that way, right? Like that was our intention. And then to me, it felt like over the years, it did become that way. Like I guess one thing that surprised me was that we have a really low churn rate. People who join, there's people who joined at the very beginning that are still here, which is, I think, pretty rare. And people who do come, they were staying for at least 6 months. And really the only reason they would leave was be like, oh, actually I transitioned out of Dataviz. Like I'm kind of career hopping out of it. And it wasn't any particular, feeling like they don't feel like they're part of the community anymore. It's just their careers transition. So I thought it turned out to be pretty close to what we wanted it to be.
Yeah.
It worked.
Well, and I think,
go on. Go ahead. I was going to say it worked in one sense, in the sense that we delivered on what we wanted people to get out of it. It didn't necessarily work in terms of, I don't know, making it worth the time quite a lot of time that we were putting into it. And I think we'll come on to this in a bit. But yeah, what were you going to say, Will?
Well, no, I think I was going to say that I think, I mean, in my opinion, I guess one of the more successful things about Elevate was that we were able to adapt to, whatever, however we perceived that things were going. So, we may have started out, I think, with one idea of like, let's try this and see, let's try it in this way and see if it works. And then, we were constantly reevaluating what about it was working and what wasn't working and making changes to adapt to that.
Yeah.
So in some sense, no, like it didn't end up what I thought it would be when we started or what it was when we started. But I mean, in another sense, it did, because I think we also started by acknowledging that this was fairly experimental and we weren't, we weren't like going for broke and going to just give it our all. And if it didn't work, like in the way that we had initially pictured it, we were just going to like throw it out or something. So, yeah.
I have the Elevate mission statement in 2022. So
we did a lot of work on all that stuff beforehand. I forgot about that.
There because I was like, I think when you look at, I think our vision has changed too across the years. So when we planned this call, I was like, I wonder why we had decided it would be. So here it is.
Why did we do this?
That was, I don't know, but I went into I was like, who wrote this? I was like, oh, no kid. So it was, our mission is to advance the craft of information design by supporting people who work with data visualization in the early stages of their career. We do this by providing a trustworthy, private, safe online space where members can get feedback, advice, and peer support on all aspects of working in the field. Key principles. Members are your colleagues, not your competition. Everyone is different, and we value those differences. Anything discussed in the group stays in the group. Regular participation is a requirement for continued membership. Decisions are made by consensus, not majority vote, and we run a nonprofit basis. So reading this, I think we actually stuck to our mission really closely.
We did.
Yeah.
We did.
I mean, yeah, I guess that being the mission, that we accomplished, mission accomplished.
I think people felt very comfortable sharing a lot of things and being vulnerable and being like, I'm struggling with this. And actually, it did make me realize how much that one part in the mission statement about how we are not competition. I think over the course of 4 years, it has become a really solidified part of my mindset. Because before, it could be, be like, well, there's only so much Dataviz work out there. Like if you're taking a job, that's one less job for me. But I was talking to someone the other day, and she's in kind of a similar field, but she was kind of wanting me to help her do some Dataviz work and teach her how to do Dataviz work so she could do it herself. And she was like, oh, basically like, but I wouldn't be like stepping on your toes at all, kind of a thing. And I was like, oh, I don't care. I totally forgot like to even think like that. So I think we really embodied that in the community. And I hope that we changed other people's mind about Duncan. I remember you saying a rising tide lifts all ships, and we really lived by that in the community.
Yeah, absolutely.
What about, is there Gabby, I know you had lots and lots of office hours, like impromptu office hours too, with people like co-designing and stuff. Was there a particular moment that you remember where you're like, that, I don't know, changed the way you think, or like left a mark on you for some reason, or you felt like was like particularly useful to someone that changed something that they were doing?
I don't know. I think it's difficult to know. And I think maybe that's when our discussion, I was like, ooh, maybe you guys have a better one. But I think there's a sense across, there's things that surprised me. I think more on the aspect of the vulnerability that the members than all of community members had with us on the office hours. So we, back in the day, I think today the last few ones we recorded, but we did not record. That was part of the like principle, so that people could feel comfortable sharing, and we could discuss more closer thing about like burnout, financial stress, all of those things that I think are not discussed enough publicly, potentially. And I think at least online,
it's hard to share that publicly.
I think it's really hard. Yeah. Yeah, and I think it's important because it's important for people. I mean, I have a couple in mind, but I don't want to share their stories. But I think, I think it's important for the community members to, they felt comfortable. First, it's a privilege that they felt comfortable enough to share where they were at, and I'm grateful for that, because I think it allows each other to see how we all kind of in the same boat. Like, we all have struggles. And it might look all good from the get-go, from your LinkedIn posting, from your Instagram, for whatever, but the reality kind of looks different in behind the scenes. And I would say that kind of surprised me. I wasn't sure people would be comfortable doing that vulnerability on those posts.
Yeah, with seemingly strangers on the internet.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Sorry, go ahead.
I was going to say, I think it really helped that we modeled that from the start. We were very open with our members about like what was going on with us. And I hope that helped people to then feel similarly open to share both with us and with each other. In office hours, if I was sort of asking someone a slightly, personal or not personal, but corporate question about their business, if that makes sense. But like a more private question about their business, I would always kind of do it by saying, like, here's my situation, where are you at, kind of thing. And that makes it so much easier for people to open up, I think.
Yeah, I guess to me what stuck out, it like less so individual interactions in terms of like, oh, this one conversation that we had, but more like the long-term relationships we got to develop with a lot of our members. Because Ali, like you said, we did have relatively low churn, and so we would have we have people that have been with us since the very beginning for 4 years, and it was amazing to be able to see people come in that were probably, it's almost like looking, like looking at a movie of your life in some ways, where you're like, oh my gosh, that was me like 3 years ago or whatever. And, seeing people at that phase where maybe they were really, still trying to transition out of a career, or, just coming out of school and not sure where they wanted to go, or like, working up their skills, and then watching those people like actually go through that whole journey and going through it with them was really great. I'll give a shout out to Gordon. Gordon's been with us forever. And, it was so great. I remember because for so many, like for years, probably Gordon was training and learning and trying to become like a data viz engineer, and, was a data viz engineer, was doing freelance work here and there, but was really trying to like, get that resume stamp, like I am a data viz engineer at this company or whatever. And yeah, I remember when that happened and he got his first like official job, and it was such a good feeling to see that, like from the very inception to the training to the struggles to the trials to achieving that goal.
There have been a lot of people who have gotten jobs either inside Elevate, like someone working at a company and someone posts, hey, I'm looking for this, or hey, we're looking for this at our company, and someone's like, oh, I'm interested, I'm going to apply. I mean, it's sort of like, like we provided a nice safe networking area for people, and it actually really worked. I was actually thinking about it the other day, like a lot of people did get jobs. With the community.
I still ping. I mean, one of my only almost full-time person at the studio comes from the Elevate community. Timur is like, comes straight from Elevate, and I just pinged another moment this morning, being like, hey, I might have a project for you. I think it does. I mean, obviously, I have information designer, so it makes sense. But I think across the board, that's something that we do, of like sharing clients and sharing work and sharing opportunities. And we have a very active channel in Elevate for a long time, people spotting opportunities across the board.
Yeah. So and sharing them. Yeah. Cause it's like, we have eyes everywhere basically, where people are like, oh, that's a Dataviz opportunity. And they post it in the Dataviz channel. Again, nobody's competing with each other. You're sharing the Dataviz jobs. I thought that worked really well.
Yeah, it really did. I think it's still the most active channel in the Slack, and that's, saying something, because there is a lot of activity in that Slack. I think one thing I was terrified about was that we would start it off and it would just kind of like the community chat would just like die in the way that I've
Mm-hmm.
seen a lot of other community chats die, but it never really happened here. But also it never really got overwhelming either. It always felt like the right level of activity. You know,
Mm-hmm.
you log in, there's maybe like 3 things to read and they're quite interesting, and
Mm-hmm.
like there's a
Applicable.
question to ask. Yeah, exactly, applicable. And yeah, one thing I was really, really happy about was how well the community built itself around that and contributed and shared and continued to do so on
Mm-hmm.
an ongoing basis.
Yeah, and if you're running a community, one thing that we did that did seem to work and to kind of keep things like it feeling like this wasn't a place that was collecting cobwebs was that every week we would post like a little question, kind of like a
You're being too humble, Ellie. Ali
Yeah, I was gonna
every
say,
Monday.
You would post a question.
I would post a question.
Ali is using a very charitable we there.
The royal we would post a question.
Royal
But
we.
I mean, it was so easy. It was just like, thinking of something that happened to me last week, or a lot of times based on the discussions from the previous week. Like, oh, here's a link to a previous discussion that got good. Maybe you missed it. Like, has anyone else seen this or felt this way? And, you can participate, you can not participate, but it at least made it feel like it wasn't a stale place. And I do want to say, if you are a current Elevate member, we are not closing down the Slack. It's free, so it's not costing us anything. So this is not going away. If you are catching this after the fact, sorry, you can't join anymore. Maybe we'll have a mechanism for non-pay, not old members to join it somehow. But yeah, we're not taking this away. So feel like please keep contributing to the Slack conversation because we want that.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's important to say that what we are really doing here is giving ownership of the community to the community. And so I'm hoping that that community will come together at some point and figure out a way to onboard people in the future. Like,
that would be great.
If you're reading this and you're a member of that community, please like propose that people get together on a call and figure this stuff out, because there should be a way to onboard people in the future. Or
people organize their own office hours or something.
Someone joined somehow the Slack recently, I think, or like the membership for free. And I was like, and so I figured somebody must have shared some internal sharing. And I was like, oh, they do figure it out somehow.
Life will find a way.
Life will find a way. I think maybe that's part of like the secret sauce of Elevate, but I think we always spending quite a bit of time trying to like prompt thing and answer questions in the Slack, letting others answer. I think a lot of it is also like pinging when others could bring an answer, like to be like, hey, I think this person went through the same thing, and connecting people. I think that was kind of the part. And I think also realizing something I appreciated that we did, I think communities in general tend to be, there's the purely social communities, and then there's the work communities. And work communities tend to be around like sharing wins and all this stuff and opportunities. And we had that. And then quickly, I think we realized that there was more human things that we needed. Like, so we have a channel called Little Disappointments where people could rant about their clients and their work. We had the vibe of the day. And I don't know if they were always active, but I think somehow it gave an outlet for the other stuff that happens. That's not just about prompting like success in business, but allowing people to share, the things that don't work so well, or just vibing, that kind of aspect of life and work.
Mm-hmm.
Should we talk about little disappointments that we have about Elevate? What are our, so we're not spending this whole time just,
glowing.
Like, it was so great. That's why we shutting it down.
It's so great.
Yeah, kick us off, Will.
Ooh, little disappointments about Elevate. I guess, I guess part of the like, in some ways this was good that like we adapted with what Elevate was going to be, and there was a point when we realized like, okay, it's not going to be some huge like thing that we turn into our careers that's going to like make us all be really sustainable financially, and that we're going to be able to put tons and tons of time into it. And so we adjusted to that, and we backed away, and I think we backed away in the sense that we like doubled down on the things that were working.
Charged less
and did less for our own time. But, there is a part of me that was always like, I wish I could spend more time on this. Like, wouldn't it be great if we could really invest, lots and lots of time? And we had a lot of grand ambitions of like, we're going to do, projects together as members. Like, we're going to, build our own Dataviz projects, and we'll guide the members, and they will come up with their ideas, and we'll help them implement them. And, all these very interesting and exciting sounding things. But, the reality is, like, you have to, I think one of the reasons it was able to last as long as it did is because we didn't overcommit, in a sense. And we made it sustainable for ourselves and really focused on what we thought was the key useful parts that our members told us that was useful to them.
Or we kind of realized when we were overcommitting, and then we dialed it back.
Right.
Yeah, I think that was kind of one of the frustrating parts to me, is not being able to put more time into marketing, because how else are people going to know about this community unless you market it somehow? And this is how the Elevate Dataviz show came about, because we thought, if we have a podcast that's kind of top of funnel where the public can hear about it, and then like the people who are interested and want to join the community can join the community after they hear the podcast. And I think this was our lowest lift in terms of marketing, and everything else was just like taking a lot of time. And we realized we either got to go, like, all of us have to really step it up and do a lot extra work in order to market this and get more people in it, or we can kind of just be happy with, the trickle in, trickle out, but really high or really low churn rate, and just kind of be happy with it being at a low hum. So, and I kind of like that too, because if there's not a lot of people coming and going, then it does feel like a community, and it feels, you feel more open to say things because you're used to these people, and it's not like a constant flow of strangers coming in. But at the same time, then like you were saying, well, like, we can't afford to spend more time on it because it's not paying very much. So marketing was a challenge for me.
Yeah, I think it was a big challenge for me as well. Like, I think the reason why the show worked for me was because I really like being on calls with the three of you. Like, it's always a joy.
We can always fill an hour easily.
Yeah, exactly. We can just like come up with a topic and talk about it. And at the end of it, I always come out and going like, oh, that was really fun. Nice. I enjoyed spending that hour. And so then it didn't really feel like work. And I think that's a real learning for me, that it is possible to do marketing in a way that doesn't feel horrific and just like incredibly grim. Soul-sucking, soul-destroying. Yeah.
Still, like, if we had to make it sustainable and make it actual valuable, even the podcast, I think we tried, at least I remember trying, like, cutting the editing and getting.
You created some beautiful assets.
I tried,
media. It's so much work. We needed
so much work. You need a video editor full time. Yeah, it would be a ton of investment, and we had made the commitment to make the community affordable. And so I think we were always stuck with that of like, either it's full price. I think my coach would say that it's even full price or free. And I think we kind of were leaning towards free, and pretty much the fee was paying for the expenses of the work, and a tiny little bit of money for us, which maybe accounted for like 2 hours of work on all of it. Not even, and depending on your rate. And it's just really hard to sustain, I think. And I agree with you guys. I think I got frustrated. I was like, I want to do more, but to do more, I would have to like 10x, 20x the price of this. And I don't want to do that to a community. It's early learners. It's people who don't have like the most stable job just yet, or just starting. And it's also international.
Or people from, exactly. People from parts of the world where, you can't just plow $100 a month into a subscription program or something.
Or more, Yeah, I agree. I think if I were to continue on this appointment, something that was difficult for me was the Dataviz community is very fragmented. There's a lot of like subcategories of like, people who have this dashboard, people who are engineers, people who do design, people who do product design. And I think what I struggle with is being able to help all of them. Like, I don't know anything about dashboards and it's just really hard. It felt like, I could help some people, which is nice. We were 4 of us, so we could cover quite a bit, but it felt sometimes like I just wanted something focused. Like I just want to teach people how to do Figma and Dataviz together, and I just don't have the time, and not everybody. It wouldn't serve everyone too, so it was put on the back burner. And I think that was a struggle at all times, is to have that diverse community, which is also a strength. So it's like always that push and pull.
Yeah. It's like a data on the outside, a community about Dataviz and creative Dataviz and freelancing does sound very niche, but it sounds like you were thinking, it probably would have been easier to do something even more niche.
This is the fractal nature of online communities.
Yeah.
Like, there's always a niche deeper.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, in some ways, I think like that worked as intended, because one of the things that I was very happy about with this community is that we kind of made the decision, like the, in some ways, difficult decision from the beginning, that like, this is not a learn how to do Dataviz community. Like, we're happy to help you and give you feedback and, you know, give you pointers and whatever, and edits and all that stuff on your actual work. But that's not the unique value that we're providing. Like, that's not our distinguishing value proposition. The distinguishing value proposition is we're going to help you in your career become, you know, if you're freelancing, we have this experience. We can teach you how to do a contract. We can give you advice on clients. If you're looking for a job, we can help you with your resume, you know, help you network, understand, you know, even where to look for Dataviz jobs.
Yeah, because it's not always obvious when jobs are Dataviz jobs.
No.
Yeah.
We have a post about that, the titles being all over the place.
Yeah, exactly. And so, you know, there were a few little tutorials we did here and there because people kind of asked for them. And we're like, okay, sure, I'll show you how I did that or whatever. But we talked about that from the beginning as like, this is probably a more traditional path to go down, as like a Dataviz community, is showing people how to do the work. But that already existed in a lot of ways. And I like that we leaned into the niche that didn't exist as much.
How to make the work sustainable, or basically. Yeah, I think so too. I mean, for me, I think my biggest little disappointment was the knowledge base. Like, this is something that I was super excited about right at the start. It was my baby, and it's still a baby. Like, somehow 4 years later, this newborn has not developed in the slightest.
Failure to launch, hasn't left the nest yet.
Not walking yet.
Not walking yet. Still just screaming at all hours of the day. No, like, it felt really good. Like an idea. It's a pattern language, and if you don't know what a pattern language is, just Google it and you'll find.
Here we go.
No, I'm not going to do that again. We've talked about it before. It's a pattern language that basically says, here is a design problem that people come across all the time in data visualization, and here are some solutions and ways to tackle it. Both at the kind of like large scale, how do you visualize data, or how do you tell a story, or something like that. Everyone wants a knowledge base. Yeah, I want a knowledge base, and I made half a knowledge base. And I was really hoping that the community would help fill it out, but it never really took off. And I referenced it the other day because someone asked for some tips on something, and I was like, I think there's something on that in the knowledge.
Oh yeah.
And I went and I looked, and I was like, this is really good stuff, isn't it?
I should note too that was written before ChatGPT too. So
look out there. Definitely. Yeah. And yeah, it's good stuff, and it's very general, and it's very technology agnostic, which I think is quite like a reason why it's helpful. But yeah, the fact that we never kind of got that to a finishing point was, a big little disappointment for me.
Yeah, Cedric says we have the same problem at DVS. No one wants to build it though. Yeah, I know it's hard to get. It's hard to get people involved. Like, you can't, I think that was one big thing we learned. You can't force people to do anything. I mean, people are going to you can't force them to pay more. You can't force them to not cancel. You can't force them to participate. You know, people are people. So there's some, one interesting thing I wanted to mention is about the patterns of maybe some of the things that we heard a lot, or questions that we heard a lot. One thing that I think always came up was portfolios, like, help me with my portfolio, or what should I add, or can you take a look at my new website? So definitely portfolios was a big thing. And we wrote a lot of articles, and there's, I think, podcast episodes about portfolios too. One other thing that I know kept coming up was just in a broader sense, just kind of like, am I crazy? Like, this happened to me with a client, or this happened to me at work or during an interview. Am I the crazy one? And we're all like, no, you're not crazy. This happened to me. Like, I feel like that was a lot of the type of discussions too.
I think another thing that we saw quite often was people coming in being like, hey, I'm registered on Upwork and I'm not getting very many jobs, it's not going very well, like, how do I get out of this? And our number one piece of advice was get off Upwork and
and
start
here's some
building
ideas to get your first getting your first client. That was a big one too.
Yeah, getting your first client was like a really big one too. But yeah, trying to get people off these kind of like race to the bottom services and to a point where they could feel confident, believing in themselves and the skills that they had, and realizing that those were worth much, much more than those kinds of large scale platforms are willing to value those skills at.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Something I've noticed in the questions that we were getting is that there's, at least one of my learnings, that there's the people who has very general questions which are really hard to answer. Like, how do I start freelancing is a very difficult question to answer because it's so context dependent. Like, do you have a full-time job already? Are you already in Dataviz? Are you just started? How advanced is your portfolio? There's so many variables.
How much money have you got saved up?
Yeah, that's a big one. Do you have your 6 months to a year saved up? Are you in a country where unemployment is paid or not?
Yeah.
Do you have healthcare for another person if you're in the US? And I think that's too much. That's too wide. And I think maybe that's something I struggle with still today, because I found that those will always be hard to answer, and it spends more time like at the individual level, where like when people are more specific on, like people really ask sometimes really, really specific thing, like how do I remind former client, former colleagues that I exist, which is so much easier to help with. And I don't know what that means for us, but for me, I was getting frustrated with the general question, because I was like, it's not specific enough, and it just feels, I don't know, it's because they didn't give us all the context and we had to sit down with them, and that's part of the normal, but I think we always had to dig further, and that took a lot of time and energy, and I love it. It's just difficult to do when you have a almost free community and limited time.
It's hard when you are first starting out, because you don't even really know enough to know what to ask. So then you're like, well, I mean, I want to freelance. How much do I charge? You start with the easiest question. Like, I know I should be charging something. People are asking me, and I don't know. I'm like, okay, well, here's how you think about it. Here's some factors that you should consider. Let's ask them some questions and dig deeper. So yeah, it is hard to get past when you don't know something very well. You don't even really know how to get specific about it.
Yeah. I think two of the kind of themes that like I was surprised to see so much of were, I was surprised how many people wanted to get into journalism. Like, I'm sure that I, attracted that because that's where I was working for most of the time here. But yeah, I was just surprised. I was like, wow, this is really a thing people want to do.
You're right. People were really interested in journalism, and
it is a very prestigious profession, I think. And I think one thing that it delivers is that you get to feel like you can have actually some impact on the world in a way that you don't when you're in corporate land most of the time, unless you're working for a very huge company.
Yeah, definitely.
Gabby, you just put your hand up.
I wonder, though, if also this is because journalism is public and everything else is private. And so no one knows. That is something I was battling with. I was like, yeah, I blame the New York Times. I do agree. I think because it's very visible, just like agency work is very visible, tends to be.
And you're allowed to be creative too, right?
And you're allowed to be
regular
creative.
Stuff and creative.
Yeah.
But even some creative stuff exists that's private, like internal comms or even I work with clients where I'm not allowed to say that we did the work, even though we did it and it's public. And I think it creates a bias in the industry across the board. And I think it's a little sad. And I think this is why we were also trying to explain to people that we have jobs that are not always public. Like I talk a lot about product design and all the corporate stuff I went through, because I think people still believe today, I think, that the only Dataviz opportunities are journalism or dashboard corporate. And there's a huge range of like private job that no one knows about. And I think it's a bit too bad. And we haven't fully succeeded at Elevate to fully, I think, pressed that range. You know, we brought guests, but they were more or less known in the community. There's just so many niches that like no one I've heard of that exist that could be very satisfying for some members of our community or even the Dataviz world in general.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and then the other thing that kind of surprised me, which maybe shouldn't have surprised me because it was a community aimed at Dataviz freelancers, but I was like surprised how many Dataviz freelancers there are. I was like, how is there this much freelance Dataviz work that exists in the world?
The self-selected group into our community.
Yeah, and maybe it is that we've gathered so many people, but I think one of the really fascinating things to me was like just learning all the places that people did this work. Like there were so many of these micro niches, you know, people would be like, oh, I've been working for 15 years as like a, you know, Dataviz engineering consultant focused on educational nonprofits or something. And I'm like, I had no idea that work even existed. And like, here you have been doing it for all this time or something.
It's that fractal thing again. Like now I'm deep in the sonification world. There's like 20 different kinds of sonification that people do. And it's like, yeah. But whenever you look closely at something, you find detail.
Yeah, someone says, oh, who is this from New Zealand? Is this Tabitha? I think it might be you, but
we don't probably her.
We don't have many from New Zealand. Hello. 100% agree with the private public comment from Gabby. I've done fantastic corporate under NDA that I can't share. Yeah. I know. And then people don't know that that's a job and available. So I do feel like kind of the default will be like, oh, we'll go into journalism. Because I mean, that's what I wanted to do when I first heard about Dataviz. I was like, oh, I want to be on the graphics team at the Washington Post because it sounded like, you know, that was a way for me to do cool Dataviz. So maybe
people see it.
Yeah,
that's how so many of us. That's how so many of us even learn about Dataviz. So it's like the first thing you see.
Yeah, you see it in the newspaper. People are like, whoa.
Work I saw that I was like, whoa, that's so cool, was like the pudding. And so I was like, oh, so that's what I want to do. Like,
yeah. So yeah, I guess data journalism is a gateway into more Dataviz work. So yeah, so if that's something that you're interested in, completely normal. One thing I thought we could talk about was yes, it's you, Tabitha. Hello. We could talk go around and say how we think the Dataviz community has changed us, like how you think it has changed yourself, maybe either how you've approached work or maybe changed your perspective on something. Does anybody have anything off the top? Because I have to think about mine for a sec.
I'll go first.
Okay.
I think what I realize is there's a clear lack of learning, like practical skill set learning platforms dedicated to Dataviz and that are more niche down. Like courses,
like people are like just getting a mishmash of things.
They're
here
getting
and there.
mixed match, and I not talking badly about the existing program, the micro program, the Italian program, and I know there's a new program at Parson in New York. But I think it's still today there's a big gap in education. People are like, how do I learn design? And I think it's a problem because there's not a lot of like purely, and when I talk about Dataviz design, I mean design, like Figma, Illustrator. I don't talk about Tableau. Like that is not design.
Yeah.
And I think to me, I realize there's a huge gap to fill here. And maybe that's obviously some people are realizing because Parson just opened this program and it's a design school. So I could see that happening, but that's a very expensive school in New York.
Right. Yeah. It's expensive to get these master's degree. And also coming from the other side, like if you are more of someone who does understand design, but kind of want to get into Dataviz, like how do I fill in the data gaps?
Yeah, it's super hard. So we had to always like advise, like I would have a list of like mix match course, like for data, for information design stack with basic of design. Here is some like classes that are available online that are cheap enough, that are not a full program. Here is some stuff about just charts for the basic of chart. Like it would be hard to cover. You would have to like compare resources. So maybe shout out to somebody, if somebody wants to start an online program for Dataviz design only, you might make a lot of money. But I think that's one. And the second one is still, I think, I mean, maybe it's just me, but I wonder if there's still also lack of transparency, it's probably true in design in general, about the real work of Dataviz design, like the behind the scenes. I think we that's something that we got at the community I really love. Again, we talked earlier about how, you know, some members shared about what they were going through as they were learning, as they were starting freelancing, literally their like daily stuff. And I think we still live in a world where and it's true of design, we don't see a lot of behind the scenes. People don't share their files. People don't share their job. People don't share their struggle. We only see really pretty finished case study that looks super easy and public. And I just think it's still something that could be worked on by the community in general, including people, if possible, from the private corporate world, because I think we need to see more of them.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that might be the thing that something similar that I feel like changed the way I think is about myself and my own work, is that the process is very messy. Anything that you're creating, it's super messy. There's a lot of self-doubt. There's a lot of collaboration that's either positive or negative and frustrations. And just being able to see other people going through it and getting more confident in my own design process. I think that's something I learned about myself and my process is it's supposed to be messy. And you're not going to just, even if you're the most amazing Dataviz designer in the entire world, inherently the process is messy because there's things you have to experiment with. There's things you have to try. There's stakeholders you have to collaborate with and negotiate with. So the process is going to be messy.
I think for me, it's sort of related to what you just said, Ali, but maybe from a slightly different angle, which is, and what I'm about to say is like the most generic sounding thing, but I'm going to try and explain why it's not generic, is like the value of craft. Like, I think one thing that I've really seen as a difference between the people who come in and they try data visualization for a bit and then they drift away versus the people who are actually successful with it. The people who are successful with it are the ones that are willing to sit down and really put in the hours to try lots of different things out, to make mistakes, like sometimes in public, and just to like explore the boundaries of what is possible. And on top of that, the value of kind of being opinionated as well, and having a clear idea of what you think something should be like and pursuing that, even like sometimes, like you're always trained to be like, yes, do whatever the stakeholders tell you. But sometimes the stakeholders are telling you a load of nonsense, and you just need to like know the difference between those two things and know when you need to like push it. Like Gabby, I think this is something I've learned from you, the importance of pushing it when you really believe in your opinion. And I think that is definitely something that I've got out of the last few years.
Yeah, I think maybe one of the things I've taken away is like the importance of all the pre-work that goes into DataViz and the importance of all the things around the DataViz that you're actually making, right? And I think it comes partially from looking at like the backgrounds of our members and just seeing like, you know, what is their actual day-to-day work? How much time are they spending making charts? You know, what are the prerequisites that they need to do before they can get to that actual point of visualizing data? Or what are the other skill sets that they have around themselves that, you know, make them effective at their jobs? And, you know, part of this also came from a really great experience we had with a member, Timur, who was doing a master's, and somebody can remind me what the master's actually was in. But
in like facilitation, he specialized in like human facilitation processes. I'm summarizing in no more word. He'll probably explain that better than I.
Yeah, but he very helpfully took us through, you know, like many weeks long exercises of trying to understand, you know, what the purposes are of this community for us, what we want to get out of it, you know, how we could transform that into action. This very kind of research and process kind of like activity of breaking down your thoughts and your goals and all these things. And yeah, I mean, that the way that I could see that immediately connecting to the work that we do day to day was kind of important for me, I think.
Yeah. All right. What if we end on kind of where we're looking to the future? I mean, it could be, we talked a little bit about Elevate for the future, which is, the Slack is staying open, so please keep interacting on there. But individually, like, where are you going with your Duncan? You want to jump in?
Yeah, I was going to say, and like speaking personally, I'm going to still hang out in that Slack. Like, it's great.
Yeah.
I get a ton of value out
100%.
from being there. So, if you're a member, please feel free to keep shooting me messages, and I'll do my best to help you out. Just because I'm not officially in charge anymore doesn't mean you can't message me.
For all of us, we are still all going to be active participants in there. So yes, not going away.
I'll probably still have a 50 hours from them.
We know that, Gabby.
Yes.
All right. What about where we're going in the future? Like, how do you feel like I don't know, what does the horizon look like for you?
It's a weird time right now, isn't it?
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it feels weird for me too.
Yeah. I mean, I think in terms of the future, like there's kind of two things, I guess. There's like, where is the industry headed and where are you headed?
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. I feel I've been, in some senses, I feel like the industry has matured a lot. I mean, it has obviously matured a lot in the time since we've started this, and that's a good thing and a bad thing. I think in a lot of ways, what we've been seeing, as I've been talking to people that do freelance, is a lot of that work. In the past, there was a lot of freelance work that existed. Like when I said I was surprised how many freelancers there are, maybe I shouldn't have been, because it was such a niche and specialized skill. Companies never had that in-house, and they would freelance that. I think that's changed a lot, and it's continuing to change, and it will continue to change more, that companies or organizations will have those skills in-house. They will have a full-time data viz designer, or data viz design will simply be a requirement of your job if you are the product designer at that company, or if you're the front-end engineer, you'll be expected to, be able to do data viz engineering as well. And part of that is just increased expectations and importance and understanding of this. And part of it also has to do with how the tooling has evolved to the point where, for data viz engineering, for example, in the past, that was a extremely specialized skill, because it really required
D3.
detailed knowledge of D3 and these kind of things that not a lot of people have that knowledge. And nowadays there's many higher level abstractions that people can use. And same thing when it comes to designing charts. Back in the day, it was a lot of, you really had to be scrappy, and a lot of it was hand drawing things in Illustrator. And now we have much more, these higher level tools like Flourish or Data Wrapper that can make really great looking charts kind of out of the box and have great exporting capabilities and all this stuff. And so in some ways, the floor has been lowered a lot. And that's really changed the way the industry looks. So part of what I think my future looks like is actually being the person that is designing those tools. I mean, that's what I'm doing right now. I've kind of gone over to the side of trying to think about not how do I do the work myself day to day, but how do I facilitate other people that are doing that work day to day. And so that's some of what I'm excited about.
How about you, Duncan?
I think, where, I was just banging on about the importance of craft, and where I've spent over the last few years been in the sonification world, data visualization at the time for various clients. But where I've really been deepening my expertise has been in specializing in that sonification space. And I absolutely want to continue doing that. Like Loud Numbers is doing great. My little sonification studio with Miriam Quick. And I think that has also kind of led me to understand that people
Okay. Are you guys back?
Yeah.
Okay. I can hear
I
you.
thought it was me, but it's all of us.
Okay.
No,
we all dropped out there. Oh, and we've
going.
lost Phil. Okay. Did you hear what I said there, or do I need to repeat it?
I just heard. I did. The last thing I heard was about the sonification studio with Miriam.
Yeah. And that there is still absolutely clients out there, tons and tons of clients who want people who have cool creative ideas and have the skills to execute on those ideas that will be unique and original and different from what other people are doing. And, you know, a lot of the technological changes around here, like that we've seen, a lot of the technological changes that we've seen over the last few years have been all about kind of like doing things like they have always been done, or kind of like following, you know, it's like doing the basics kind of thing. But where I think people can have success is in doing exciting and new and different and weird things. And so that's the direction that I'm interested in leaning going forward, while still trying to pay the rent somehow.
Yes. That's important. Gabby, what about you?
I mean, I'm aligned with all of you guys. I think still today the industry is very tool driven somehow. And I think execution driven. And I think it's interesting because it makes me have the curve that I think all the members are going to go through. For the beginning of a career, you're execution driven. So you focus on like really honing the craft of like the practical skill set. You'll always have to do that, but this is like the bare minimum to get a job and continue getting paid. I think I'm moving towards like philosophy driven, like more and more. I just feel like I'm leaning the craft, I guess I feel comfortable with, either by my own skill set or being able to hire people who have the craft that I'm looking for a certain project. So I'm more leaning into like, okay, what's my point of view on information design? What's my point of view on data and how we should use it? Which might be a bit egocentric, but it is what it is.
You want to have the big thoughts on LinkedIn.
I want to have the big thoughts on LinkedIn. I want to have the big thoughts in general. I want to have the larger question, because for me, it's like, I just want to go really deeper into, I mean, I just reposted someone's work on LinkedIn, but Shirley was talking about like the industry and how it doesn't exist, the trust in data. And I tend to disagree. I think I think the industry today still communicates to audiences. Like in general, it's a one-way communication. And I'm kind of interested in the both-way communication. Like I'm interested in participatory structures, like co-creation with people, and like understanding how people process and internalize information rather than interested in how it looks and how it should work. And that's my personal mission. I'm just like really, really interested in that. While like Duncan say, I think there is a lot of place for weird things, and I think we need more of that, because just doing the traditional thing is going to get easier by the minute. Just not just AI, just in general, like things that get done get easier with time. That's just how the world works. So we can't just focus on that.
You said the word that Will and I were both trying really hard not to say, I think, Gabby.
Sorry.
The dreaded two-letter acronym.
I mean, it's not even about that. I think it was true before that, like, big wave of things. It's just like we have systematized, like, we have, like, data.
It's mature, Dataviz has become mature. Like, you know, there's rules, there's ways to do it. And
production of Dataviz has matured.
And that's what I was trying to kind of say a minute ago, which is like, to stand out, you do have to break some of those rules and do weird and different things. And yeah, that's really important. Sorry, you were trying to explain something.
I'm done. That's it. That's my pitch. Like, go ahead, Ali.
I think that the thing that I'm wrestling with too is, you know, like you were saying, Will, there's so many tools out there. I mean, with AI too, like being able to analyze data, create charts. I mean, sure, they're, you know, not so great right now, but you know how fast it's moving, and being able to use AI to create charts and analyze data and to teach people too. Like we're seeing in the training field, a lot of people are bringing training in-house because they feel like they can lean on AI. Hey, build me this module about bar charts and, you know, the pros and cons and whatever, and it'll be decent. I mean, yes, you do need to check it and like all that stuff, but I think a lot of people are thinking, well, it gets me 90% of the way there with kind of a click of the button, so isn't that good enough? I mean, so it really depends on your level of risk tolerance for sure. But that's just has me wondering, like, how do I fit in a space where I'm AI is probably taking over more of my expertise. And what are the unique things that a person can bring to it that AI can't and never will be able to? And it is sort of related, seeing how the job market is kind of shaping up in terms of like um, how people are using AI to filter resumes. People are using AI to create resumes. There are AI interviewers, like you get interviewed by an AI bot first as like the intro interview, or people using AI to as the interviewee. And it's kind of like, our boss just going to start talking to bots? Like, is really the only way to get a job is to know someone in person and get a job that way? It does feel like it's moving that way. Like I'm saying, like, I'm applying to hundreds of jobs and I'm so qualified for every single one, but like I never make it through too many interviews, or if I do, it's through an AI and I can't get past the AI. So how are people getting jobs? So I am feeling very, I guess, confused in how we're all going to fit in the future, and what is the thing that we can all do that humans value, and that we can continue doing, that will pay the rent. That's a big question. Like, what are people gonna find value in that's not AI related? So I guess big question mark for me about what the future is looking like.
I mean, I can, yeah, I will offer maybe, since that's the final thing, like a more optimistic counterpoint to that, maybe. I will say, I think, there is, sure, absolutely, like AI is, can do a lot of things now, and certain things it can do well, certain things it can't do well. I think what I've experienced, what I've seen so far, is that even things that it can do well, it's never going to not feel like a robot, I think. It lacks a lot of, it doesn't have empathy. It doesn't have consciousness, right? AIs are not conscious. They're not empathetic. They don't have these qualities. And so,
they don't feel things.
Right. They don't feel things. And I think increasingly in a world where we're surrounded by content that lacks that empathy, that lacks that feeling, that lacks, that something, that humanness, people are going to gravitate towards the opposite side of the scale. They're going to crave this content that is, they're going to crave an in-person instructor who can actually look at them and understand what they're saying and talk to them and empathize with them. And in the same way that, yeah, some people will take trainings in-house and they will, just tell an AI to do their module. They could have, 20 years ago, they could have just bought a book and bought Edward Tufte's book and said, this contains the information you need on how to make a bar chart, read it. But, there was a reason that they still hired people to train. And so, not to say that things won't change and won't look potentially different in the future, but I don't think it will be apocalyptic. I think we're going through a period of upheaval and change, but
yeah, the pendulum is swinging.
Yes.
Now we got to see it swing back.
Yes, yeah, I have optimism for the future.
When we started Elevate, I was really excited about creating online communities, and now what I'm really excited about is doing things with a few people in rooms. That's what, like, I really enjoy doing now. So yeah, it's probably the right time to be ending, this chapter of what Elevate is. And I'm also really excited to see what it becomes in the future.
Yeah, I think my biggest wish is that the people in the community and people outside the community who didn't officially join, but like do feel like they're part of the general Dataviz community, look to see. I mean, we hope that we positively impacted you, but look to see around you like the 1 or 2 or 3 or 4 or 5 people that you can reach out to and form like a little micro community and see what you can continue, because there's so much power in empathy and humans and connecting and sharing experiences. There's a lot of good things that can come from that.
Yeah, not pushing for scale.
Right. All right. Do you think we covered everything?
We need like 6 more podcasts.
Yeah,
Yeah.
We just
keep
spawned a
going.
new one.
Maybe we'll just keep going. Who knows? But no, this has been wonderful. As we said, we will all be sticking around. We're not disappearing.
Yep.
You know, and yeah, all good things come to an end. And you know, this is a good.
And this
thing.
one isn't ending.
This is a good thing that is
Better. It's not ending.
coming
It's a
to
change,
an
evolution.
end, but not the end. So
Yeah.
yes.
Also, I want to thank you to everyone who has at some point be part of the community. You like obviously made our last 3 years. Like this was an amazing journey. We're happy. Please stick around in the Slack if you've been there. If you've been just watching the YouTube videos, please, thank you. You know, I hope that was useful. We're just really happy that you came along on this journey with us.
Yes.
Yeah, reach out. I've met several folks in person when they've been passing through town, or you know, you're at a conference or something. So again, that's the whole point of this, human connection. So yep.
Yeah, that's great. All right. Well, thanks everyone, and goodbye for their last episode.
Maybe.
Bye.
Bye,
Thanks,
guys.
folks. Bye-bye.
Bye.